Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Hewitt, and today we're going to talk about a metabolic episode. So hang on to your shorts. We're going to go into a hot topic these days on hormone health, and that topic is estrogenics. Now, if you've never heard of this term before, estrogenics, this refers to chemicals and agents that mimic estrogen in the body. And something that changed my life recently was a book that I had read called Estrogenation. Okay. It's called Estrogeneration. It's written by a PhD researcher named Anthony J. So Dr. J, he wrote a book that really opened my eyes to all the reasons that uh, testosterone is so low these days and why estrogen dominance is becoming such a problem. It's no shocker to hear that a lot of the problems that we experience today are due to the toxicity of our world. Um, it doesn't there it's irrefutable. There is nobody who has half a brain or who hasn't studied research, who hasn't really recognized what's going on in the world today, to not see that there is a massive problem with chemical insults in our lifestyles, especially in modern world, especially in developed countries such as the United States, Canada, Australia, Europe. These countries are riddled with increasing disease rates, increasing rates in all chronic illnesses, all kinds of issues, and especially hormone related issues. And one of the main reasons is because of this issue called estrogenics. So let's get into this. This this is something that really helped me understand why testosterone in specific is such a problem with both men and women these days. Why testosterone levels have decreased 20 to 25% just in the last 20 years alone in both men and women. And it's not necessarily due to obesity always, although obesity is the number one factor. A huge and by the way, a lot of the reasons, well, not a lot, but some of the reason behind the increasing rates of obesity is because of all the processed and toxic foods and chemicals that we put in our, in our food system. So what I'm trying to get to is that the declining testosterone rates don't just affect people that are overweight or obese. They're also affecting, people that are exercising and drinking water and sleeping properly and taking supplements, and let's say, investing in their health with organic foods, going to the chiropractor, getting routine health checkups, and so on and so forth. Myself, I was one of these examples. Now, granted, a lot of my testosterone suppression was due to, chronic overtraining, under recovering. But I believe there is some degree of, estrogen toxicity as well that contributed to some of my low testosterone issues. So if you're like hitting the gym, getting up early, eating clean, and something's off, um, and you haven't measured your hormones and your libido's down, your energy's low, your body comp isn't what you think it should be. You've got, more fat around your breasts or your midline. One of the things that could be affecting you is this issue called estrogen dominance. So, one of the things Dr. J changed my view on is like, what are the top 5? He calls there's a toxic top 10 he has in his book. I'm just gonna highlight the top 5, for sake of time, and just to kinda tease the book, because I think you should go out and get the book and read it. It's eye-opening. So what we're going to talk about is, my top 5 estrogenics, which are either synthetic or natural compounds. And what they do is they mimic estrogen in the body, and they're not only affecting humans. We're seeing this in all types of, species of animals on the planet. One in particular that they know has uh, been affected significantly are reptiles. You've probably heard that the femaleizing of crocodiles and frogs is being observed in all these, water supplies, especially in Florida. And one thing that Florida does is it puts a lot of pesticide and herbicide Not to mention all the hormones being flushed down the toilet is disrupting this hormone balance in these reptiles. And what they're seeing is it's amplifying the estrogen signals and causing, a lot of estrogen dominance problems and actually femalizing of a lot of the male species of these amphibians. So, the assaults on our endocrine system come from uh, these top five that I'm going to start working on with you guys here. Number one, you may have heard of something called BPA. This is something you'll see on a lot of like bottles, especially like synthetic plastic bottles. You'll see sometimes BPA free, which you always want to make sure if you're going to drink out of something that's plastic. This bottle here that I have on the bottom, it says BPA free. Although I learned from this book that just because it's BPA free, it still could contain something called BPSs, which is another uh, bisphenol compound, which can be undesirable. So bisphenol A in specific is something that's pretty toxic. It's found in like canned foods and plastic bottles, and believe it or not, receipts. So you know that like carbon paper that you get with the receipts, and yeah, that stuff's really really toxic. You want to try to avoid touching that stuff. So just opt to not get the receipts. But what this does is amplifies estrogen signals in the body unnaturally. This impacts both men and women. So the um, the potent synthetic estrogen BPAs like leaches into the food and drink that you consume, and this is what causes a lot of that amplification of the estrogen signals. So you want to avoid BPAs. All right, number two, phthalates. Okay, PHTHALATES, phthalates. So these are found in like fragrance type of stuff, like aerosols. This is why I stopped wearing cologne. I love like nice smelling perfumes and colognes. I have a very sensitive sense of smell. And I appreciate nice scents. And I always really liked, putting on something that made me smell nice, like a cologne or a fragrance. And I stopped doing that because I found out like how freaking toxic a lot of these cologne products are. So a lot of your fragrance products contain these phthalates. Vinyl is riddled with phthalates. Even things like synthetic types of clothing. So if you wear a lot of like polyester or spandex, it's got phthalates in it. Plastic wraps. Okay, you definitely want to make sure you're not heating up any of this stuff and consuming it. So these have like anti-testosterone effects. This they've observed this in um, especially fetal development. Disrupts fetal sexual development. This also has been linked to low sperm counts. So for those of you trying to get pregnant, you're trying to stay fertile, you want to make sure you're avoiding all these phthalates. So like room sprays, bathroom sprays, fragrances you put on your body. And you got to think about fragrances even on things like soaps and shampoos and stuff like that. You probably heard of like parabens. Yeah, those are disruptors as well, but phthalates are found in that stuff too. Number three, atrazine. This one is especially nasty. This is the stuff that is in herbicides. Okay, you probably heard of herbicides and pesticides, linked to those big corporate companies like Monsanto, spraying it on crops like corn and soy and wheat. These are mega mega toxic. But I don't have proof of this, but I'm just going to tell you my personal opinion that I used to think gluten was a massive problem for a lot of people, and I still think it's an issue for those who are sensitive to the proteins in wheat, like gluten. Myself, I am not sensitive to gluten that I know of. But I can tell you one thing, when I eat food that is processed, it makes me feel shitty. And the reason that I think it makes me feel shitty is because of the shit that we spray on our foods, such as pesticides, herbicides. And I have a strong belief that, I've heard this from dozens of patients and friends and family. When you go overseas, for example, and you go eat like breads, pastas, cereals, bagels, muffins, croissants in France or Spain or Italy, uh, you know, even drinking the booze, like, you don't feel as shitty. We have so many preservatives and toxic sprays and chemicals that we put on our foods. And these are some of the things I'm hoping that we'll see a change coming up here, that we're starting to talk about this stuff. This is stuff that, uh, especially, like, chiropractors have been screaming from the rooftops for, like, decades. Of course, we're the fringe weirdos, right? But all this stuff is coming to fruition as far as, like, the evidence that is showing that excessive herbicides and pesticides, and sprays and things like that you put on your lawn, things you put on your plants and your vegetables and your fruits, like, all this stuff has a degree of endocrine disruption in your body. It demasculinizes animals, like, reduces testosterone, all that stuff you don't want. It's going to amplify the estrogen dominance, in a mammal species, or animal species, period. Okay, number 4, parabens. I mentioned this briefly when it came to, like, shampoos and cosmetics and lotions. You wanna be careful of these things because you're putting them directly on your skin. I have a rule for the most part that if you would not put it in your mouth, then you probably shouldn't put it on your skin. Right? It If there's a lotion that has 30, 40 ingredients, there's probably some shit in there that you don't want absorbed into your system. Some of those things can contain what are called parabens. Those are linked to reproductive dysfunctions, in both men and women. This is probably not shocking to hear that you're seeing a lot of paraben-free products on the market these days. So I think a lot of people are aware that parabens are toxic, especially endocrine disrupting. Number 5. And by the way, there's way more than 5, you guys. Like I said, Dr. J highlights 10 of them, toxic 10, he calls them, in his book that I strongly recommend you read. But number 5 would be the synthetic birth controls. So they're called ethinyl estradiol. So EE2, EE3, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it's basically synthetic birth control estrogen. Now, the reason this is a major problem for everybody is because where do you think this artificial estrogen, excuse me, goes when it's metabolized in a body? It goes out the urine, through your kidneys and your bladder and ureter and out into the water systems. So all the water systems that we measure are finding that there's just an incredible amount of what are called uh, synthetic estrogens in them. This is why we're seeing a lot of the changes in some of the animal species that live in these ponds and these rivers and these, estuaries. There's a lot of femalizing characteristics that are happening with these animal species, and it's because, like, it's persistent in the environment. It's very hard to remove. So this does find its way into the drinking water. Okay, it's inevitable. This is why it's very critical that you filter your water. Uh, I could do a whole episode on tap water and why drinking tap water, no matter where you are in the modern world, is probably not a great idea to drink. There are some areas that are better than others, clearly. However, it's always a good idea to still filter your water. In my house here, we have a reverse osmosis filter. There's a variety of different types of filtration: UV, reverse osmosis. There's carbon filtration, things like that. We have a filter on our water system we use for our showering water, like tap water we use for, to bathe ourselves with, and wash our laundry and wash our dishes, for example. But the water we drink, we filter right at the source at our sink in the kitchen with a reverse osmosis filter. This is one of the reasons you want to filter your water. Okay, amongst other things like getting out excess neurotoxic heavy metals and chemicals such as fluoride and lead and cadmium and things like that. But ethinyl estradiol is something you don't want in your body, especially as a male. That stuff's going to kill all of your testosterone. Not all. It's going to kill. It's going to create a estrogen dominance in your body. Problem for both men and women, but especially men. Uh, So let's talk about the health concerns that are linked to this estrogen problem, estrogen dominance issue. So number one, as I mentioned, obesity. So it's like, well, what's the problem? Okay, what's the problem with low testosterone? Is it we have low testosterone these days because we're fat and obese, or are we fat and obese because of all the estrogen, um, producing chemicals in our environment? I believe it's both. Right? It's like a vicious cycle. um, you get into you get more fat and more sick because you eat more chemical laden processed foods, and the more chemical laden and processed foods, the more estrogen producing your body becomes, and the more aromatization happens from testosterone to estrogen, and it just perpetuates the issue. So the number one health concern is obesity, right? It causes obesity, it perpetuates obesity, and some of the reason that people have a really hard time reversing themselves out of metabolic sickness such as obesity is because they are stuck in this estrogen dominance physiology. Another good reason to make sure you are getting your blood chemistry measured. Okay, low testosterone. So this is something I'm very passionate about. I harp on. This is something that I've created a business because of my own personal experience of um, having low testosterone, and remedying that issue and how much it changed my life. How many people I've helped change their life already. Not just with artificial or what you would call bioidentical testosterone, but actually helping people optimize their hormones naturally first. One of the main things that I'm adamant when I'm helping my guys in my weaponized body program and with weaponized wellness in helping them with fixing their hormones is removing all the estrogenics in their environment, and in the things that they put on and in their bodies. So muscle loss is connected to low testosterone, low confidence, low libido, um, depression, overall just lower quality of life, low energy, all that stuff. It's bad news. Uh, Here's a major problem that I've seen especially increase in the last 15 years in practice. More and more people and more couples that are struggling with infertility. And we're talking about not just, women, but men as well. Guys with low sperm counts, women that have reproductive issues for whatever reason. And, in a lot of cases, it's largely due to synthetic estrogens as well as other, toxic estrogen producing chemicals that are going on and in their body. So that's a big issue when it comes to like estrogen dominance. So early puberty in children. This is something like if you're over the age of 40 like myself, you've observed this. You've seen like, hey, I remember growing up like right when we're in that awkward teenage, not even like, 11, 10, years old. Like there were not very many people going through puberty. Like that didn't happen until you were in your early teens, like getting into high school. Now, the average, um, breast development used to be like 12 or 11 years old. Research is showing it's happening as early as 8 years old now, especially in the last decade. So, like, girls are going through puberty much sooner, so are boys, right? And boys are having, uh, you know, their own issues, girls are having their own issues, but a lot of it is due to, like, that early onset of puberty, and it's because of a lot of these hormone disrupting chemicals, I believe strongly. Higher risk of breast and testicular cancer. This is something that might be surprising to learn about is that estrogen dominance, um, estrogen issues in the body, right? They're potentially linked to like breast and testicular cancers. Both men, obviously, men with testicular, women with breast. So these are like hormone disruption types of cancers that are linked to estrogen dominance. And lastly, potential neurological effects. So we're talking like ADHD, mood disorders, and so on and so forth. So these are just like some of the top issues that I've researched, I've observed, that I'm touching on, but I believe me, there's more. Um, more more of these issues from, estrogen hijacking your hormonal system and amplifying, or these chemicals like amplifying your estrogen signals in a way that nature never intended. So, lastly, where we're going to end this podcast today. So, we've learned about the top five, toxic chemicals that are causing estrogen signaling in the body. And then let's talk about, and then we talked about, some of the health concerns linked to it. Let's talk about how to avoid it. So, you guys, I always like to make sure that we're adding some value so people can walk away with some like tangible things that they can start doing. Um, so let's get into that. Um, Number one, how to avoid BPAs. So I'm a huge fan of using glass or stainless steel to drink out of. So when possible, choose glass. I know it's not the most convenient. It's kind of weird lugging one of those around the gym. Stainless steel is a little better. So you're going to see that there's some containers that are better than others. You want to make sure none of these stainless steel containers are lined with any sort of like strange liner that's plastic or polyvinyl. So like simple glass is always the safest, and make sure it's just like your run of the mill stainless steel container. Try to avoid canned goods unless they say BPA free. A lot of those like cans are lined with BPA, like a plastic coating almost. So try to avoid canned foods and skip the thermal paper receipts. I know that's a weird one, but yeah, that thermal paper is super toxic. Let's talk about phthalates. So try to just avoid fragrance. Products. You can get some like essential oil or natural types of like scented products, but like those personal care products that you're spraying on yourself, just look at the ingredients. If there's phthalates in them, bye bye. Avoid plastic wrap and vinyl. So like vinyl stuff that you wear. Also like avoid plastic wrap, especially don't heat up your food in plastic. This is one of the issues with heating plastic is you get these phthalates in your food. There's a big thing about microplastics. There's even companies now that will help you measure the amount of microplastics you have in your body. Yeah, you'd be shocked to know that almost all of us have Teflon in our body as well as microplastics. It's pretty disgusting. You don't want to like make that issue worse. Just don't use plastic wrap if possible, and definitely do not heat any of your food in plastic. Like don't put your food in plastic containers. Always opt for glass if you can. Number three, atrazine. So make sure you're filtering your water, first of all. So activated carbon, reverse osmosis, UV filtration, stuff like that. Any of your drinking water. Uh, Try to eat organic, but here's the thing. That organic thing is a bit of a marketing ploy. You're still going to get some of these like pesticide herbicides on your food despite buying organic. Supposedly there are less, but here's where I draw the line. Like if the food has a peel on it, I don't really buy into the paying premium price for something that has the certified organic label. But if you're going to literally eat the food, so the difference between like a banana, like I don't generally buy organic bananas, but I will buy organic apples. Uh, Especially things that you're going to eat that have skin on them, like an apple or like a pear. Your berries are notoriously toxic when it comes to these atrazines, the herbicides on them. So the corn is probably just best to avoid altogether unless your local farmer is growing it. So that stuff is just like the hell is sprayed out of it. If you're getting it from just like an industrial crop. Parabens. So try to choose paraben-free skin hair products. There's lots of stuff out there that offers like mostly like chemical sensitive or paraben free and like lower amounts of ingredients types of like skin and hair care products. So anything you're going to put on your skin, you want to make sure that it's non-toxic, no parabens. Um, you can use, apps actually these days that, can check some of the products if you're unsure, because some of the ingredients sometimes are very confusing. There's a lot of, names you can't pronounce or understand. like some of these phthalates, parabens, and things like that, they're disguised as other types of names. I think there's product checking apps like EWG, Think Dirty, things like that. So just know there's like resources out there that you can use in order to check your products. The ethinyl estradiol, so the synthetic estrogens. So make sure that you're filtering your water. Once again, if you haven't noticed, that's a common theme. Like drink filtered water, and make sure you're like trying to drink filtered water when you're on the road or out in public. I know it's difficult. I always carry water with me everywhere I go. So I have like a 30-ounce bottle and I'll bring it. You have to plan ahead in some cases, but it's worth it to try to avoid even like buying bottled water that's plastic. You're going to get some, not necessarily estrogens, but some plastics. So if possible, try to like bring your own filtered water, you know, obviously try to refill in stations that have water filtration. So here's the deal though. You just heard me rap about like all these toxic chemicals, all these things you got to do to change. So listen, do I um freak out and worry about estrogenics all day long? No, I do not. Do I have certain like standard practices that I operate by? Yes, I do. But you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to completely avoid toxic chemicals. We live in a world that, um, we have a reality where these things are part of our everyday life. So it's just trying to remove exposure where you can, where you have controls, because what you need to know is these things are cumulative. So if you are like drinking tap water and you're eating fruits and vegetables from the grocery store that you're not washing and they're non-organic, and you're also spraying and using paraben riddled chemicals like shampoos and soaps, and so on and so forth. So you see how it's all bioaccumulative. So it's not necessarily that one of these things from time to time is problematic. It's the bioaccumulation of these things. So trying to minimize the exposure is what you want. This is important for anyone who wants to optimize their hormones. I'm telling you, you want to still be fertile. You want good sperm production. You want to still have normal, like um, you want to delay any sort of like hormone issues later in life, such as menopause. Like menopause is inevitable for women, but if you want to delay menopause and have it happen in a like tapered, healthy manner, like this is huge. Making sure that you want ideal body composition, you got to be sensitive to these things. So, because guess what? Your DNA, believe it or not, it's not your destiny. Your daily exposures are. So, yeah, we have certain vulnerabilities and like genetic tendencies, but here's the thing is that uh, your lifestyle is what turns on and off those genes. And estrogenics is a big piece of that when it comes to your hormonal health, when it comes to your longevity, your fertility, your happiness, etc. So, if you found this episode valuable, if there's some things you took away from it, got you thinking, you might change a couple things about your day to day life. Share this episode with someone you care about. So this stuff is like really freaking important. Grab the book Estrogeneration. I highly recommend. It's one of those books that's got a bunch of stuff that's frightening, but there's definitely some good solutions in the book. Subscribe, leave a review. I really appreciate you guys, supporting the podcast. And yeah, just make sure that you're reclaiming your strength and weaponizing your biology. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys in a week.